is about this little thing called posturing. It's something that we don't even look at whenever we see this text. Posturing is whenever you are being set or getting put into a particular position for a particular thing. In this text, we have two cases of posturing. Jairus is a high priest in the temple. High priests in the temple are responsible, have a responsibility to the people of God for letting them know what is the will of God. Now, during this time, there was a conflict of interest between the church and Jesus. Ain't that peculiar that there's a conflict between the church and Jesus? Sometimes we got conflict today in between church and Jesus. Right. We gotta pray about before we even think about helping somebody out. We gotta think twice about. We gotta have about 3 meetings before we raise a love offering to help somebody and their family. But I thank God that in this church we don't have a conflict in between Jesus and the church because we are led by His grace and His mercy. Jairus is a high priest in the temple, responsible for talking to God on behalf of the people. And not only that, but also relaying messages back from God to the people. But oftentimes in this church, in this particular church, you don't follow after God. You follow after the leadership, which is the human leadership. You follow after people, and whatever they say God say do, and that's what you believe. If God said Jesus wasn't, if the rulership said Jesus was not the Messiah, that's what God said. Here we have the high priest of the temple, the one who is supposed to be led by God, who was once governed by the Pontius and governed by Roman rule, now coming to Jesus. The one who is not supposed to be the Messiah, asking him for healing for his daughter. Yes. The high priest, the people look at the high priest and takes their cues from him on what they should do. This is why Pontius Pilate went through the church to get to Jesus. He comes to Jesus and asks for healing for his daughter. Do you know how much posturing it takes for you to be in position to humble yourself enough to actually obey the will of God and to follow God and know where the power really lies? Yes, he could talk to God and go into the temple and go behind the veil and get whatever he needed and wanted for his family. But you know, there's only certain things that earthly manners can handle. You know, we sing this song that God specializes in things that seem impossible. Do you have any afflictions that no other doctor can heal? God specializes in healing all kinds of afflictions, and he can do what no other power, especially what only his Holy Ghost power can do. The Jairus went through this posturing and had to humble himself to the will of God and know who Jesus is and recognize who Jesus is, so that way he can receive the blessings of Jesus. Jairus had to go through this posturing to get the healing that he needed for his daughter. This woman with the issue of blood, some believe that she was a young divorcee. And whenever you are divorced in the Jewish culture, there is a price to pay. We call it alimony, where you give to the wife after you release her from being your wife. And this price is often determined whether or not she is a virgin or not. If she was a virgin when you met her, then the price goes up. But if she was not a virgin when you met her, that price drops a little bit. Probably more than 50% than what you would pay if she was a virgin. The thing is, it is believed that whenever this issue of blood came upon her, her husband didn't want to divorce her. And then she was left with the little bit of alimony that she had. And with that alimony, she went and tried to go see doctors and use all her earthly resources to get the healing that she craved and desired. But soon did she find out that no earthly matter can heal certain things. Sometimes you got to take all your things to the one who can heal all your wounds. Sometimes you can take it to the real balm in Gilead and get the healing that you need. And it was so to the case where the posturing took place that not did she didn't even grow better, but in actuality, she grew worse. The bleeding got worse. The pains got worse. The situation just got worse. It got worse to the point where people knew the situation and problem by who she was. And at this moment in time, if you had an affliction that could not be healed, you were told to walk around and scream out, unclean, so people can leave you alone. Has anybody ever been in a place where nobody didn't know what to do with you, so you just had to wear your issues on your sleeve and you had to walk around? It was like every time you entered in a room, you just heard the echo of unclean, and everybody just turned and looked at you and just moved out your way without you even asking. They just made you feel dirty and unclean. That was this woman's life. She felt like she was unclean everywhere she went. But she did not let that uncleanliness stop her from getting to Jesus to reach out in faith and touch the hem of his garment. She said, no matter what, by any means necessary. I came here, I heard about this man, and I know that he has power to heal whatever I need him to do. So I'm going to reach out in faith and let him have his way. But I do believe that within my very being, that it was in this moment that we realized that this woman had poured out everything that she had. She had given up everything she had. She had no more money. In an instant, she had no more faith. But when she heard Jesus coming, a little bit of faith grew inside of her. It comes to my understanding that sometimes we need to pour everything out or let everything know so that way we can get more of God. You know, sometimes we be so full of ourselves and full of our titles and full of our education to the point where we don't have no room for God. We be so full of our job to the point where we have no room for God. Can I bring it a little bit closer to home? Sometimes we so full of our positions at church to the point where we don't have no room for God. Sometimes we get so full of serving on the usher board to the point where we don't have no room for God. Have you ever seen an usher at the door that's mean all the time, that don't smile, that don't say, hey, how you doing? Cat, dog, hey, goodbye, nothing. Those people ain't full of God. We got people in churches who are serving and singing, preaching and praying, who don't have a lick of God in them. This woman poured out everything she had and poured it all out in Jesus' name, and then was able to be filled with God. Filled enough to the point where she touched the hem of his garment, and he turned around and said, who touched me? And the virtue left from him. She emptied herself out. She went through a place of posturing. Now, I don't want you to be fooled. This posturing on both sides is painful. Nobody wants to step out of the eyesight of people. Nobody wants to step down out of the comfort zone of people. You know, because sometimes we take pride in how people look at us. Jairus had a position where he took pride of how people looked up to him. This woman with the issue of blood did not want to be considered unclean. But in order to get to that place where you can call and ask Jesus what you will, it took some posturing. It took some stepping down off of some high horses. It took some humbling of the spirit. Sometimes we think we humble enough, but God has a way of showing us that you ain't never too humble to get whatever he needs you to have. It takes some posturing in the midst of this. And if you cannot remember the word posturing, I'm going to give this to you and then I'm going to let you go. Is that all you got to do is say, I'm getting in position. For whatever miracle God has in store for me, I'm getting into position. For whatever way he's about to bring for me, I'm getting into position. For whatever healing he's about to send my way, I'm getting into position. Because eyes have not seen, nor has ears heard what God has in store for them who loves them. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy surely does come in the morning. I'm getting in position for whatever God has in store for me. It may take me a little while. It may take me 12 years, but guess what? I'm getting in position because what God has for me, it is for me. You've got to take your time and trust God through the process and let him get you in position to where you need to be, so that way you can ask him what you will, and he'll be willing to give you the desires of your off, but I was getting in position. I was laying up in my bed, drinking my tears for water, but I was getting in position. Sometimes I couldn't stand on my own 2 feet, but I had to sit down and call on Jesus. I was getting into position, allowing God to change my mess and turn it into a message. I was allowing God to take my test and turn it into a testimony. I had to wait on God for him to get me. Folk don't understand, but he's getting me in position. They don't see what God is doing, but he's getting me in position. It don't feel right, but he's getting me in position. This pain is hurting me, but he's getting me into position. If I can encourage you today, I will say to you, his grace is still sufficient enough for you. Because even in your weakness is his strength made perfect. Be still and know that he is. I'm getting into position. While you're in the process, you're getting into position. I love to see different things, and I love the illustration of different things. And I've learned that in medieval times, there was this thing called a catapult. And a catapult was already in its upright position when they pulled out. But then if you wanted to project something, if you wanted to attack somebody, you had to get that catapult into position. That means you had to stretch its bearing all the way back. You had to lay it all the way down and to carry the load and place the load in it. And then you let it go and it shot it as far as it could. Some of us are getting in position where we are being reared back. And God is about to unload something in you. So that way whenever he lets you go, somebody's going to get healed. When he lets you go, somebody's going to get saved. When he lets you go, somebody's going to get free. I'm getting into position. I'm getting into position. Don't worry about what you see right now. I'm just getting in position. You may not understand the process. I'm just getting into position. Don't worry. God's got my back. I'm just getting.
Yes, God. That's all right. Yes, God.
I'm getting into position.
Yes, God.
I'm getting into position.
Yes, God.
Talk about me as much as you please, but I'm getting into position. Standardize my name, but I'm getting into position. Lie on me, cheat, steal, whatever you want to do, but I'm getting into position. Because God got greater on the way.
All right.
You know, it looked bad on that Friday as he was hung high and stretched wide. Oh, it looked bad when they pierced him in the side. It looked bad when that water and blood came running down. It looked bad when they put him in that bar tomb. But oh, he was just getting in position. Because early on Sunday morning, got it with all power in his hand. Power to save, power to heal, power to deliver, and power to set free. And that power still exists today. That blood reaches to the highest mountain and flows to the lowest. Oh, that blood that gives me strength. Because it's not by might, not by power, but it's by my spirit, says the Lord. It will never never lose its power. So hold on. While you're still in process, hold on. You're just getting into position for whatever God has in store for you. You're just getting into position. For whatever God needs you to see, you're just getting into position. For whatever he has next for you, you're just getting into position. You know, everything has just been nothing but him putting the pieces of the puzzle together. So that way, whenever the time comes. You know, for 30 years, we barely knew Jesus. For 30 years, he was getting into position. So on that night at the wedding of Cana of Galilee, he can turn water into wine. So that way he can heal somebody's body. He can make the blind see, the lame walk, the dumb talk. He can stop a few funeral processions. He can feed 5,000 and 4,000. And took was 3.5 years.
All right now.
All it took was 3.5 years. That's what you know about in the Bible. You know about 3.5 years.
Yes.
Now I want you to catch this. And I want you to read it fully through when you get back home. Read it completely through when you get back home. Mark 5:21 through 43. Go and look at that. Look at it. Look at it real good. These people's whole story was their suffering. We don't hear nothing else about Jairus. We don't hear nothing else about the woman with the issue of blood. Their whole entire story was nothing but their suffering. But I decree and declare over you and your bloodline, your suffering will not be your story.
All right.
They will not know you by your suffering, but they will know you by the victory that God has given you. They will know the power of your praise. They will know that you celebrate over your circumstance, that you shouted over your situation. They will know who your God is by your victory and not by your suffering. Your suffering is not the end of your story, for at the end of your story, there is glory. You just getting into position. And I can't wait to see what you look like when you're coming to be. I can't wait to see what God has in store for you. I can't wait till you get on the other side of this river. I can't wait until you cross over this bridge. I can't wait until you get through this tunnel. I can't wait to see what God has in store for you. I can't wait to see how you run and not be weary. I can't wait to see how you keep on walking and you don't faint. I can't wait to see how you mount up on wings as eagles. Yes. And soar. I can't wait. I can't wait. If you don't remember anything, remember this. There's glory at the end of your story.
Amen.